I don't know. I only know, actually, so I grew up in Michigan, and I grew up 30 minutes away from Golden Grace and Luzak, who I was on the team but I don't know very many other Graces my age or our age. I don't know her. No, but I'm gonna go to Wisconsin, or to Madison in a couple months, so I might get a chance to meet her. Yeah, I went to Madison. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. If I could have your attention, please. If I could have your attention, please, we'll go ahead and get started. All of you for making it to the national championships. This is one of our pinnacle. This is our pinnacle event in the calendar. So give your hands. There you go. Thank you for all of you. I also want to thank the Sacramento State Aquatic Center. They are our hosts in terms of organizing the event. For me, this is the first time I've been to this venue, and on first glance, it's, I mean, incredible. So I want to recognize the organizing committee for their support and also for helping us to host this graduation ceremony. Also, want to thank all the teams. I was walking across in preparation for this with a group from Baltimore. And I think that's just a reflection of not just the level of this event, but just the effort that people make to participate in our sport. I also want to thank the parents. I mean, you athletes would not be here today without the support of the parents, whether that's driving you to practice, early mornings, early afternoons, whatever it is that we have to put up with. And I think it speaks a lot. You know, if I could talk a little bit about my family and my experience, this is a sport that helped shape me. And I think for you parents, that have put a lot into supporting your kids, those that are represented here today, as well as back home, it's a sport that changes lives in many different ways. And I think it's also a sport that really influences our behavior. I mean, in my case, when I went through high school back in the 70s, it really helped impose a discipline and an appreciation of teamwork that I like to think has really shaped where I am today. And this morning, I had the opportunity to go out with a couple of the athletes in Oakland. We have one of our training centers there. And when you see the caliber of individuals that represent our country in terms of the Olympics and the various world championships, they are an accurate reflection of all of the kids, students that are here today. So parents, give yourselves a pat on the back because you've made a good investment, not only in your kids today, but also in their future. So a round of applause for the parents from all the students. For those of you that don't know me, I left the sport in 1992. I rowed in high school, I rowed in college, I made an attempt at the national team, and I also worked for the association for a few years. And when I left rowing, I worked more on the commercial side of sport. I worked with a lot of other sports like tennis, golf, football, and so on. One of the things that impressed me in September when I came back into rowing was what is happening within our youth rowing community. I mean, when I rowed, there were a couple of high schools. I rowed in Florida. And when I came back and I did a little search as we prepared for the World Championships, there are about 30 to 40 high schools just in Florida that participate in rowing. And I think that speaks well to our sport in terms of the commitment that you're making, but also in terms of what it offers you as a student, but as a student athlete. And I think that's reflected when we think about the students that are here today. We have 11 scholar athletes within this group. We have over 30 students that are graduating with honors. We have the valedictorian from Bainbridge High School. Where is that person? Put your hand up, whoever. There we go. And then we have many of you that as you graduate are also, for the next 4 years, committing yourselves not only as students, but also continuing your rowing at the various institutions that you're going to. And I think for me, when I evolved from high school to college, I had a great experience also at a collegiate level. So again, you've got a lot to look forward to, and hopefully as we move forward over the next 4 years, we'll be seeing a lot of each other at various collegiate events, and maybe for some of you even a path thinking about the under 23s and then ultimately the Olympics as we start thinking about Paris in 2024 and Los Angeles in 2028. We also have schools, when I think about where you've been accepted, I mean, I was given a list earlier, which, I just kind of want to mention some of the colleges that some of you are going to be going to. Stanford University, MIT, University of Washington, University of Michigan, West Virginia, U.S. Coast Guard Academy, Naval Academy, and Wisconsin. And I think that's just a few of the schools that are represented. And again, I wish you luck when you go. And hopefully, we'll see each other again as you work your way through your academic career. I'd like now to introduce Peter Chattain. He and I spoke briefly as he was preparing for his short presentation today. Peter's our student speaker, and I think he's an accurate reflection of what you all represent. He comes out of New Trier High School in Chicago. He's on the USRowing Scholastic Honor Roll. He was on our junior national team last year in the 4-width. And this is what impresses me. I mean, obviously the athletic capability, but we'll be studying artificial intelligence as he goes to Stanford University this fall. Peter represents to me what is great about you. So with that being said, Peter, I'd like to turn it over to you for a couple of minutes. Okay.
So, I wrote for New Trier, and for all you Reddit followers, our Light 4 is absurdly fast, and they'll be coming back next year. So, at New Trier, it's really cool to see how the team was totally transformed. Like, freshman year, a lot of the guys would kind of, like, goof off and, like, not really train that much, but, like, that's totally changed in the years that I've been here. We've, like, the main thing that's changed is we just decided to, like, work a lot harder and work a lot more consistently. And I think that's like when you compare the two groups, like the groups that like worked hard and the groups that didn't, like the groups that worked hard are like they seem a lot more happy. And I think that's like the biggest the biggest lesson rowing has taught me. So rowing has like totally transformed who I am. I mean, it's really helped me funnel my competitive spirit into like hard work and consistent work. And I've also like put on about 40 pounds. So freshman year when I was considering whether or not to row, I remember hearing this story about like how hard people would work, and like about a week before tryouts, I heard this one story about somebody who worked so hard that they threw up during a 2K in their basement, and I was like, there's no way I'd ever do that. I mean, just like compared to like playing video games in your basement or something, it just does not seem like something that I would end up doing. But of course, I continue with rowing, and like just like all the people that you meet, it really like helps you push yourself, and like yeah. So fast forward 4 years, and now I finally know. All right. So the hard work that we put into rowing, yeah. All right, sorry, I just messed up there. So yeah, the hard work that we put into rowing really helped me foster a lot of bonds with my teammates, and like that just really helped me like push myself, and I'm really glad to have developed like this hard work and consistency skills, and that'll like help carry me through in college, with like what I want to study. And I really hope a lot of you guys also have developed these skills. Thank you.
Hey, Peter, thank you very much. And I guarantee you, none of you wanted to be up here behind the mic. I mean, Peter did a great job, very impressive individual. And Peter's mom, please put your hand up. Well done. Next person I'd like to introduce is one of our Olympic athletes, but also a good friend. Grace was in Princeton for a long, long time and was one of the first athletes I got to know when I started back in September. She's been part of our national team going back in 2012. Prior to that, she was at University of Wisconsin, and she won the Big Ten championship while she was there. She also won a gold medal in the 2015 World Championships, and she's an Olympian. And I think that's an achievement that very, very few people get to call themselves. So she's a good friend. She's a very, very successful athlete, and she has a lot to say. So Grace, could you come up, please?
All right, can you hear me okay? All right, great. So I want to start off by saying that these sort of moments are my favorite moments in rowing. And what I mean by that is that these are the moments before racing starts. Most of your preparation is behind you. And the only thing separating you from taking those first strokes on the race course is time. Right now, you have the most possible outcomes available to you. You can race this race 1,000 times with 1,000 different outcomes in your mind before you even take a stroke. I'm sure that for a couple of the last weeks, many of you have taken a couple of practices, a couple of strokes with your eyes closed, picturing yourself here at Lake Natoma. And if you're a big dreamer, maybe you've already taken the last few strokes of your winning race. Doing exactly that is what I have done since I started rowing as a walk-on at the University of Wisconsin. How I got into rowing is that after registering for my first semester of classes, I walked into the extracurricular fair and the coaches spotted me. It felt super special. Little did I know, they really actually just marked the door with like a 6-foot tape, and they just scanned for the room for the tallest students, and they're like, "You could be an Olympian." And it's meant to be sort of just like a conversation starter, because the university has always had an Olympian in rowing since 1960. But I took them a little bit more seriously, and I knew nothing about rowing. I had never touched an oar. I had never seen the sport before walking into that room. But when they said that, flashbacks of all the times I'd ever watched an Olympic Games, and I knew that was exactly the dream I wanted to latch onto. My time at the University of Wisconsin was a great one. I had been part of an amazing team. I'd never been part of racing, and the grittiness of my teammates around me really motivated me. Through snow and rain, we rowed, and when we couldn't take to the water, we took those strokes in our minds. And against all odds, we won the school's first Big Ten team championship after 4 years of pushing each other, bringing each other up, and holding each other accountable. My journey to the national team was not so easy, but I learned a lot of the right skills from my teammates and my coaches during my college time. I did not make the U23 team after that Big Ten win, despite going and being invited to the camp, and I spent the rest of that first summer training at Vesper Boat Club. After I graduated, because I did a 5th year, victory round, I was not invited to the training center immediately after graduation. It turned into another year at Vesper Boat Club. Myself and my teammate Vicky, we moved to Philadelphia, and we had done everything together. We took our first strokes in the barge together, all the way up to our 5th year training with the men's team and chasing after those faster erg times. After that year, she was invited to the training center. I was elated for her, but I was not invited to the training center. And so began another year not where I saw myself. I spent plenty cold mornings rowing in that single by myself, being somewhere else. I was visualizing taking strokes on the course in Amsterdam, where the World Championships would be held the following year. I visualized qualifying the women's quad in Aigueblet, France, which was necessary to secure a spot for Team USA in the Olympics the following year. After some Google Earth research, I also took some strokes in my mind on the Lagoa in Rio. I pictured myself lining up for that Olympic final, and I never let go of that image in my head. After a year of rowing that single and held it at arm's length away during 2013, I was finally invited to Princeton. I made my first team in 2014 and won a bronze in the quad on that course in Amsterdam. In 2015, I won a gold medal at Worlds in the 4 in Agballet, where I wanted to be, but not the boat I envisioned myself in, but nonetheless, I was a world championship. I won a world championships. Our quad and our 8 also won gold that year, hardly 2 years after spending all that time alone in the single on the Schuylkill, rowing circles in my mind in these exact places. I was a world champion, and I actually had a shot for the Olympics. To have every event medal out of the training center and on our women's team was a great achievement and incredibly motivating. When gold is everywhere, when your teammates are the best in the world, you no longer just dream of getting to the Olympics, but medaling and winning. The time between those golds and the Olympics was a very long one. It peaked with having to seat race my best friends for the final spot on the Olympic team. After weeks of brutal seat racing, getting switched dozens of times, I made the quad on the final day, switched in the final seat race. Just a few weeks later in Rio, we struggled in our Olympic heat, but in the repechage, we beat Australia in a photo finish between 3 boats. It was enough to be in the moment that I had visualized years earlier during practice. I was going to be at the starting docks of an Olympic final. When we passed the finish line 2 days later, we ended up 5th. 2 of us had won gold in the year before, and 2 of us had won gold in the quad. This is not what either of us envisioned for ourselves. I was going to make Team USA against all odds, and I was going to win a medal at the Olympics, but that didn't happen. I was absolutely crushed. When you train surrounded by people who have won Olympic medals before, and when people you train with every single day, year after year, go on to win gold in the 8 a few days later, it's hard not to feel like you failed or lacked something or overlooked something in your race plan, despite doing your best and being your best for years to get there. At that time, I was a mix of emotions. I was elated to have the title of Olympian and to represent Team USA, but bitter about not being able to repeat the success that we had had the year before. And it really bothered me when it came up that I was an Olympian, when people would ask me, and they would then immediately follow up with, what medal did I win? That didn't happen for me or my boat, but they still mistakenly referred to me as an Olympic champion despite having no evidence for it. Over time, I realized that's not what really bothered me, but what I knew but couldn't explain to these strangers was that there was so much more to the Olympic journey, to my rowing journey, than just having a hunk of metal at the end of it. I had teammates who had set world records but weren't Olympians. I had teammates who were world champions and erg monsters who didn't get to go to Rio. There were some who just barely made the team the year before, and they won an Olympic gold medal the next year. I'd seat raced a dozen perfectly qualified, successful athletes for the last seat by tenths of seconds. What I was grappling with was developing a different definition of success than what I had been told, and that it's a different story than the one you see on TV about the Olympics. Here I was at the top of our sport, and I felt very unsettled. Instead of looking forward to the next step like I had always done, I turned inward and backward on my experience. For example, during the intense Olympic year of weekly rankings and seat races and selection, all of my teammates were outstanding individuals. There was no resentment towards each other's successes. People lifted each other up through injuries and bad days. And in the thick of final selection, with tenths of seconds between us, we shared our water, our snacks, looked each other in the eye when we switched seats, and genuinely wished the girl the best of luck. It was a bittersweet moment to be the sole girl in the room to receive the news that I had made the boat go the fastest I would accomplish a life goal when 12 other women were crushed. To personally not have made it, but they were glad that out of this personal hell, whoever came out of it was fire tested. What I came to realize is that champions aren't always winners, but they're usually winners in life. A champion is dogged, a fighter, someone who overcomes, pushes themselves to their ends on someone else's behalf. None of that really has to do anything with winning. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. That definition describes a spare, a teammate who didn't make it but stayed on to practice to push us every single day until you left to race. It's someone who selflessly pulls themselves out of the lineup when nursing an injury because they have absolute confidence that the athlete to fill their spot is as tough and is as good as they are. It could be a coach or parent. It could be a mentor or teacher. It could be a teammate who graduated the year before, who laid the foundation for you being here today. There are a lot of champions out there who don't have medals, just like there are some heroes who don't wear capes. There were 10,000 Olympic athletes in the athlete village in Rio de Janeiro, and only of that maybe a couple hundred got a medal. So most Olympians don't win medals, but they're always admired for getting there. People recognize the type of person it takes to get there. The same way all of you had to work through soul-crushing erg pieces, hard practices on the water, win seat races, and win your regional championships to qualify to make it here, to the 2018 Youth National Championships. Rowing is a lifelong practice in becoming that type of person. Persistence, grit, selflessness, teamwork, and a vision to keep an eye on the bigger picture are more important to an athlete, and they are more important for people to succeed in every aspect of life. These women I've called teammates are now in medical schools, working with kids as teachers or coaches, and some are still pursuing their Olympic dream. I want you to think about that when you go out to race and row this weekend. Maybe not while you're actually rowing, but when you're warming up, spare a thought for those teammates who didn't qualify, rowers who spent every single year of high school trying to make it to this regatta who didn't, who pushed you to qualify to be here today. Of your competitors lining up next to you that you share so many strengths with, and who may even become future teammates in college or might be on your team in an Olympic final. Whatever the outcome Sunday brings, you've achieved a lot of incredible things just to be here today. But for now, congratulations on your graduation. Congratulations on wrapping up your rowing journey, your high school rowing journey this weekend. And congratulations on being here in the first place. So in this moment, before the regatta begins and those first strokes are taken, are you already a champion? Thank you.
Grace, thank you very much. Peter, thank you very much. Both represent a big part of the reason why I felt it a privilege to come back into the sport after being away for 25 years. I also, and for me it's a long, long time ago, I do recall going through graduation as well. And I was talking to Bryce from Baltimore on the way over here, and I just asked the question, why are you here? Are you missing a graduation? And he said, yes, I'm missing a graduation, but I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And I think that speaks well to the sport, to the camaraderie that you all represent, and to the effort that we're going to see over the next couple of days as you line up for the time trials and then ultimately for the finals. So congratulations to all of you. So as part of a graduation, if my memory serves me, there is an element of recognition. So what I'd like to do is just recognize all the high schools, the clubs that are here today, by calling out each one. And I don't know if we want to do a group picture or not, but what I would encourage is when I call out your names at the club, just step over here to the left. And then for the parents with the cameras and whatnot, I think if I get this right, the sun's over here, face is over here, we should have a good camera shot. So as I call out the club or the high school, just stand up and just walk over here to the left, and then we'll go for a group shot, and then we'll call it the night so that you can all go rest, eat, and get ready for tomorrow morning. So we'll start with Advanced Community Rowing Association. If I could ask you please to rise and just walk over here to the left. We'll just start to cluster on the left side. The Asheville Youth Rowing Association. The Atlanta Junior Rowing Association. The Bainbridge Island Rowing Association. The Baltimore Rowing Club. the California Yacht Club, Cambridge Ridge and Latin High School, Capital Crew, Charlotte Youth Rowing, City Island Rowing. I'm going to get this next one wrong, I apologize. Consentaga Crew Club, Detroit Boat Club, First Coast Rowing Club, Fordham Prep, the Greater Dayton Rowing Association, the Greater Lawrence Rowing, Green Lake Crew, Hatboro Horsham High School, Jesuit College Preparatory of Dallas, Lake Lanier Rowing Club, Lake Lino Rowing Club. For my fellow Long Island Manhasset Rowing Club, Manhasset High School crew, Marina Aquatic Center, Maritime Rowing Club, Miami Rowing and Water Sports Center, Mile High Rowing Club, Minnesota Boat Club, Montgomery Boat Club, Mount Baker Rowing Club, Mount St. Joseph Academy, Nashville Rowing, New Trier High School, Newport Rowing Club, Newport Sea Base Rowing, Oregon Rowing Unlimited PDX, Orlando Area Rowing Society, Pelham Community Rowing Association, Pocock Rowing Center, Redwood Scullers Stanford Rowing Center, Rose City Rowing Club, Row America Rye, Row LA, St. Andrew Rowing Club, San Diego Rowing Club, Sarasota Scullers, St. Andrew Rowing Club, St. Peter's Preparatory School, Taylor Adelrice High School, Three Rivers Rowing Association, Vancouver Lake Rowing Club, Wilmington Youth Rowing Association. North Bay, sorry. All right, listen, congratulations, everybody. Why don't you get together as a group? We do a group shot, and then we break it up from there, all right? Thank you very much, and good luck this weekend.